another Monday. That means you have survived. You are alive. It's a great day to be alive. I don't know why, but that's what I've always heard. So let's go with that. Anyways, let's recap some pick, guys. We're going to go over what happened this last weekend, and then I'm going to give you the picks for this upcoming week. Last week was actually okay, especially if you didn't get a chance to grab the last pick. You had an even better week. So let's just start it real quick. We ended up 4-2 on the official picks for the week. 4-3 with the pick that I was waiting on that ended up coming out, and it just screwed me over, which it happens, right? So I'm gonna give myself credit for that that third loss, but if hopefully you didn't grab that actually. So let's go. Lions at Rams -14 was the first pick, and I don't know how many of you actually got a chance to watch that game, but the Rams should have covered on that one, so I don't feel bad like I was just totally on the wrong side. Obviously, the Rams did go on to win that game, so that was good. But just to give you a little breakdown, because I don't know how many people actually watched the game or were able to, but the Lions just flat out pulled out every single stop that they could to try and get that win or to at least keep that game respectable. And damn if it did not, or if it worked. God bless. I just could not imagine Dan Campbell being an aggressive play caller, an aggressive coach. He was not an aggressive play caller. Let me take that back. But he was a risk taker. And let's just get it started. So the first drive the Lions have, they receive the ball. They're going down. They're, just run. Exactly what you would expect the Lions to do. And they're not making too much headway, but they're kind of keeping the ball going until they hit a screen pass. That screen pass, I don't even remember how far it went. I think it was like 40 yards or more. And it was to DeAndre Swift, and he just went DeAndre Swift on everybody. He was juking people, and then he was just super damn fast. Nobody could touch him. And, oh, my God, he looked great. He's one of those guys that I didn't take in fantasy, and I'm kind of kicking my own ass for. But he gets that touchdown, so they're up 7-0. Rams are going to get the ball back, right? There's a kickoff. Nope. The Lions say, screw that. We're not giving you the ball at all. We know you're going to score, so we're just not going to give you the ball. So they do an onside kick. Rams were not prepared for the onside kick. So the Lions get the ball back, go back down the field. I'm not sure if it was at that point or maybe the next drive that they do a fake punt. But either way, they get a field goal out of that. The next time they get the ball, I think it was the next drive, the Rams had finally got the ball. They had finally scored, so it was 10-7. Then the Lions go back. They do the fake punt. They get another field goal out of it. It's 13-7. Rams, again, get the ball finally. It's like every time the Rams get the ball, they're going to score. The Lions know that, so they're trying their damnedest to not give them the ball. At the end of the half, the Rams are up by 1 point. It's like 17-16. Second half comes out, and the Lions again pull out another fake punt. They keep a drive going. That gets them another field goal, and they're up by like 2 points in the fourth quarter, and the Rams are able to just make their drives count. They get their scores. They get the win and get the hell out of there. But the whole moral of this story was to say that the Lions had to pull out every trick in their bag. Dan Campbell was searching. He was looking up witchcraft and shit like that just to try and again not get blown out. I really truly think, while a lot of us were talking about the Rams side of the ball last week, and we were like, man, Jared Goff is going to get his ass handed to him. Sean McVay wants to expose this kid. He wants to make him retire. And Matt Stafford has a revenge game, and he's going to beat the hell out of the Lions. And everybody was focused on that side of the ball. I think the Lions and Dan Campbell heard that talk, and they were like, hell no. Maybe we wouldn't have gone all out for this game, but now that we're hearing this, we're going to get demolished talk, we're going to do whatever we can, and our best plan of action isn't to try and scheme up a good defense. It's literally to just not give the Rams the damn ball. So they lose the game, but they cover, which screws us. But anyways, it was a decent enough game plan. It's not something I think that the Rams opponents can keep doing, because eventually it's just not going to work. Something's going to go wrong. You're going to mess up a fake punt. And at that point, you're just giving the Rams a shorter field. Anyways, that was the first one. Next one was the Bengals at Ravens. We actually had 2 wagers on this game, and they were both wins. So the Bengals +7 was the initial pick. I really liked it, and I even said that going into it. I really liked that matchup because it was the toughest defense that the Ravens had played up until this point, and that's why I wanted the Bengals and the points. And again, we were expecting some dogs to cover this week, which is exactly what the Lions did. The Bengals go out there, though, and just put an ass whipping on the Ravens, and it was close until like the middle of the third quarter, and the Bengals just did whatever the hell they wanted to do with the Ravens. We're scoring touchdowns. Jamar Chase looked like a damn Hall of Famer. It was crazy. It was great to watch, and it was something that we kind of saw coming, but the Bengals did get the win, just the outright win, and obviously we get the cover. The other bet we had on that, though, was the Bengals-Ravens under 23.5 for the first half. That did hit, and it was actually really close. So my kind of theory on that was that the Bengals and Ravens were probably going to come out and have a slower first half because the defenses are both good. The Bengals obviously was the focus of my kind of spiel here, and their defense being good. But the Ravens' defense is obviously still good. They're still the Ravens. They still have a lot of good pieces there. So I thought the first half would be slow, and that the adjustments at halftime were really going to dictate who won this game and exactly how close it was. It was sort of that way, except the last minute of the first half, the Bengals have the ball, they're driving, they're down to like the 5-yard line, and the total at that point is 20. So if they get that touchdown, it goes over, we lose. Luckily, the Ravens are able to get some pressure on Joe Burrow, get some good defensive play, and then hold him to a field goal, so it ends at 23 for the first half. So he just barely squeaked that one out. It did sort of go according to plan, but either way, we get that win there. Next was the Jets and Patriots, and again, we had 2 wagers on this one. So I'm going to go over the loss first, which was the under 42. And I'll be damned if the Patriots did not go over that by themselves. Again, this is another, like, we're going to prove a point game, or at least it seemed like it. Everybody had kind of said, hey, the Patriots are decent on defense, and they don't really have a strong offense. And obviously, their defensive play really helped them out in putting up, like, over 50 points. But they just ran through the Jets' defense like it was nothing. I mean, just constantly. Like, every fantasy-relevant player had a pretty good game, especially Damian Harris, for the Patriots. So the under 42, we lose on that one. Obviously, would like to win them all, but hey, it happens. Just the defense for the Jets, I don't know. Maybe this is a sign of things to come, or maybe it's just Bill Belichick beating the hell out of another team. I kind of thought that the Jets losing Zach Wilson would help us out there, just because the offense did slow down just a little bit. But I also thought the Patriots, and kind of part of the equation here was the Patriots would take their foot off the gas and maybe take their foot off the throat for the second half, and it did not happen. But the Patriots -7, that was the other pick we had. That one covered easily, and it's easy now to look at it and be like, oh, well, yeah, that was a gimme. Everybody should have been on that play. That was the right side, blah, blah, blah. Imagine, or just kind of put yourself back like a week ago, last Monday, and people were saying that this Patriots team might not be able to cover the 7 because the offense was not good enough. The offense had not shown a propensity to have high-scoring games and to be able to keep up in these games, and that they were going to have some issues. And that there was a lot of people I know that were on the Jets plus the 7. They thought that the Jets would lose, but keep it close, or they were hoping they'd keep it close. And there's one thing you never bet on, that is hope. Don't ever bet on just, I hope this is what happens. Anyways, another win there, so we did go on that side. That is the 4-2 that were the official picks for the week. The last one, and the one that I lost on, and unfortunately maybe some of you lost on it with me out there, was the Texans at the Cardinals -3.5 for the first quarter specifically. So of course the Cardinals go on to cover the whole damn game, which, okay, great if you had the -18 or whatever the hell it was. But the first quarter, traditionally, the Cardinals get out to a pretty good first quarter. They have like a 7-point average for the first quarter. The Texans have basically a 0 average for their first quarter. The Cardinals were doing okay on drives, but they just kept shooting themselves in the foot. The first possession they had, it was like first and 10, and then they had a botched snap on second down, so it was like second and 19. Then they had a holding penalty, and one way or another, it ended up being like a third and 36. So obviously they weren't going to do anything on that one. The second possession they get, I believe that was when they get their safety. So that was another one that was like, okay, well, that's nothing. Then they obviously have to give the ball back to the Patriots. I'm sorry, not the Patriots, Texans. The Texans are taking up like 4 minutes with every damn drive because they don't know how to pass the ball, apparently. Cardinals do get the ball back a third time in the first quarter, and they're just not able to do anything with it. They actually they get stalled out on a drive, and again, it was like penalty induced. So just a bad string of things. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say they had like 3 3-and-outs. Or all 3 of them were 3-and-outs, or maybe they got like 1 first down in that first quarter. And it was just issues with the ball handling or whatever, and it put them back. So not something I think is going to happen again. And I'm actually going to be betting against the Texans again for the first quarter this upcoming week. Lines are not out yet, but the Texans do play the Rams this upcoming week. And the Rams, and I said this at the beginning of the year, and we've already wagered on this one time, and we got the win with the Rams first quarter. But this seems to be another good setup for the Rams first quarter. The Texans, like I just said, they are averaging like 1 point in the first quarter, and they got a safety in this one, which, if you've been watching football for more than like an hour, you realize safeties are not very common. And like I was just saying, the Cardinals were not stopped by the Texans defense. They basically just killed themselves. So as long as the Rams can put together a decent drive, and keep in mind, this last first quarter that they played against the Lions, they were actually losing in that first quarter. If there is anything that you should maybe take away from this like trend or spiels or anything that I get into, anytime there's a heavy trend for something, a team is really good in a particular quarter or a particular aspect of the game. If they happen to fail in one game, in this case, let's say it's first quarters, they happen to lose a first quarter, the next game they play, odds are they're going to win that first quarter. They're not going to have that same mistake again. Especially because the Texans are not the type of team to play it really risky. While the Lions, like I said, needed to pull out every trick that they could, and they were like summoning Houdini and using Ouija boards, the Texans are not that team. David Culley is not going to be that guy. He's not going to be faking punts and going for it on fourth downs unless it's like fourth and half an inch, and even then he's got to like really need the win. And maybe he will be a little bit more aggressive than usual because he knows he's playing the Rams. But I just don't see them taking all the risks that the Lions did, like the onside kick, to get the advantage over the Rams in the first quarter. And so, obviously, again, that line is not out. That line probably won't come out until like Saturday morning. I do fully expect it to be another like Rams minus 3.5, somewhere around there. I do like it up to Rams minus 4. So, again, that's not official yet because there is no line out, but that is something I'm looking for, and I will be playing myself once the line comes out. That is going to do it for the recap. As far as this upcoming week and the picks that I like for right now, I have had a chance to break down all the games that we do with Madden and kind of throw the numbers into the algorithms and update everything. Luckily for us, a lot of the teams that we handicap didn't have a game this week, so we don't have to worry about updating too much. The DVOA stuff is going to still be updating really through tomorrow, so a lot of this is not final yet, but it is to the point where some of these are just like so one-sided that I don't really need to wait any longer to drop some money down on these. So let's get started first. The Rams, only not necessarily just the first quarter, but I am going to be playing the Rams the full game. With the Madden prediction, we have Rams to win by 22 points. On my own grading algorithm that is just my own formula, I also have them winning by 22 points. That is just huge. And that's right now it's Rams minus 14. Or it's actually, I'm sorry, Rams minus 14.5. I got it at Rams minus 14. I would say still buy it down to the 14. It's actually exactly what we did last week. So it is kind of a deja vu, and damn, like we're hoping it doesn't happen again. But like I was saying, if you watch that game, this was not an issue of us necessarily being on the wrong side. It was just the Lions trying to do their best to not get embarrassed out there, and I don't think the Texans really give a damn about embarrassment at this point. Even if Tyrod were to come back, I don't know how much of a difference he's going to make as far as strength of schedule is concerned. The Texans have played the 22nd easiest strength of schedule, which is about the 10th toughest, and the second easiest defensive strength of schedule. The Rams are number 3 in offense per DVOA, so this is going to be kind of in sync with the Texans. They're used to playing really tough offenses, but they are their 4th ranked defense by DVOA. That is not in unison with this. The Texans are used to playing easier defenses. The Rams should be able to hold them. So this 10 points that's predicted for the Texans, again, remember this does not account for standard deviation. So I would not be surprised to see the Texans only put up 3 points in this one. I believe the standard deviation in this case is going to fall to the downside, meaning that it's going to be 10 or lower, 10 to 3 somewhere. The Rams on the other side, again, they are, lucky enough to have the easy schedule as far as offenses are concerned. They haven't had to play a lot of really high-powered offenses other than like the Cardinals. Texans will not be an exception. They are the 2nd worst offense in the NFL right now. They are used to playing really tough defenses, though. They actually have the 4th toughest strength of schedule by defense, and the Texans are the 20th ranked defense by DVOA. So this score here for the Rams, I would say it's going to at least be the 32. If not the standard deviation, we may go up. So, again, I don't see them having an issue covering this big spread unless there's something unforeseen like there was last week. But, again, not to be expected. So I am taking the Rams minus 14 as the first pick. Now, I will tell you, I don't do this often, but I am going to probably sprinkle just a little bit more than usual on this game. I wouldn't call it like 2 units or anything like that, but if your regular unit size is like, let's say $100, I might go up to like $125. Just sets up to be a really good spot for the Rams. And the Texans at this point, if they have not just thrown in the towel, I have a feeling the Rams are going to make them. They're going to come out and punch them in the face and just get this over with. Next, though, let's go ahead and go to the next pick, which will be the Dolphins at the Bills. And it's actually going to be, so for us, it'll be the Bills minus 13.5, which is actually what the line is. So surprisingly enough, there was money that came in on the Dolphins. The line did start at Dolphins plus 14, and it actually jumped up for just a few minutes to Dolphins plus 14.5, meaning that some money came in on the Bills, and then it came crashing back down to Dolphins plus 13.5. Now, again, 14 is a semi-key number, just in the fact that it has not always, it's not as prevalent as some other key numbers, but it does pop up at a more frequent rate than just like your generic, like a 5 or something like that. But either way, we get it to the Bills minus 13.5. Same thing here. Everything is pointing to the Bills having an easy cover. These teams actually already played once. The Bills won that game 35-0. Now, that was with Jacoby Brissett, so maybe Tua gets them, a touchdown or so. Maybe he keeps an extra drive alive. But even with that, I really don't think this is just a fair fight at any part of the field. The Bills just have the advantage each way, every way, twice on Sundays. It's just not going to be fun. If you're the Bills or a Bills fan, to keep in perspective what the Dolphins have done and what Tua has done, because I'm hearing a lot of people saying, hey, Tua's looked good. Tua has looked really good the last 2 weeks. He's keeping them in these games, and they've had a chance to win both against the Falcons and the Jaguars. First of all, stop yourself right there. Listen to what I just said. They were in a game which they lost against both the Falcons and the Jaguars. I would stop slurping Tua that hard. Secondly, as far as defenses are concerned, the defensive strength of schedule, the Dolphins have had the 8th easiest strength of schedule by defense, meaning they have played a lot of lower tier defenses. I'm going to just kind of run down the list here with you. They played the Patriots week 1. They are the 11th ranked defense. The Raiders week 2, who are the 15th ranked defense. The Colts, the Bucks, the Jaguars, and the Falcons. Defensive DVOA for those teams is 17th, 16th, 32nd, and 30th. The last two, the Jaguars and the Falcons, are 32nd and 30th, meaning they have had a stretch of really easy defenses. They are now going to take on the Bills as the number 1 defense in the NFL. Remember, the first time these teams played, the Bills held them to 0 points. I don't know if they're going to pitch a shutout again, but I don't think Tua is worth 10 or 14 points. This is probably going to be a really low-scoring game for the Dolphins. The Bills are also coming off their bye week. Now, I don't really love teams that are playing at home after a bye week. I think a lot of times you'll see these teams come out with a little bit of rust. Some of these guys just don't even pick up a playbook. They don't watch any football. They don't like football unless you're getting paid for it. So the whole week off, they are just literally off. So I do expect a little bit of a slow start, maybe some rust to kind of kick in with the Bills, to begin with. But this team is just so much more talented, so much better everywhere that I don't think it's going to be able to stop them from covering the 13.5. Bills, as far as their strength of schedule is concerned, they have had the 12th easiest schedule by offensive strength of schedule. They have had the 16th easiest schedule by defensive strength of schedule. They're going to play an offense, that is the 3rd worst offense in the NFL. So not a big change here. They're going to play another easy offense. And they're going to play the 26th rank, which is the 6th or 7th worst defense in the NFL. So again, not really any big surprises for the Bills. This is just kind of their MO at this point. They should be able to go in there and just lay hands all over this Dolphins team, make them say uncle, and be done with this game by the end of the 3rd quarter. The coaching report card does have it a little bit closer, but again, one thing that this does take into account, and I think it's important to know moving forward, is that the Bills have not shown an ability to win a close game. The 2 games that they lost were against the Titans and the Steelers, and they were both one-possession games, and they lost both of them. So because they have a 0 in that one-score win percentage factor, it really does hurt their grade, especially compared to a team that might have 100 or a 66 or anything like that. That's a pretty big drop-off. So the reason I'm bringing that up is if there is a game that is close, I would probably take the other team and the points, but I actually prefer the Bills laying bigger points, bigger spreads, because I expect them to just beat the hell out of these teams, and they're not going to look back. And even when they stop passing, their run game is so I don't really want to say it's a great offense when they run, but it's so unexpected and it's so little film on it that you don't really know how to stop it. And I'm struggling for words here because you don't see the Bills run that much, or we hadn't prior to this year. And this year, now that they're doing it and they're doing it effectively, it's really hard to stop. So, again, Bills minus 13.5. That is the second pick for this week. And I actually have 2 more for you guys. So the next one is the Browns-Steelers, and this is actually going to be a total play. So I have the Browns-Steelers under 42.5. The teams are just not only beat up, but they just do not have effective offenses right now against good defenses. So let me just kind of clarify that, because the Browns looked decent last week against the Broncos. The Broncos right now, and it might surprise you because they had a pretty good defense to begin the season, they're the 24th ranked defense by DVOA. So I was not surprised to see the Browns have a decent offensive showing against the Broncos. But if we're looking at, again, strength of schedule, and I'm sorry guys, you guys are probably going to get tired of hearing me say this, but at this point in the season, your DVOA and strength of schedule and all that kind of stuff is the most important factor when you are handicapping these games. It's going to go DVOA, quarterback, and then we're going to have other things like field position, home advantage, these bye week issues and body advantages and all that kind of stuff, and then opponent's defense. And you might be asking, why are we looking at defensive DVOA and then we're going to look at defense again? So the defense, while the offensive side is kind of dictated by, hey, what players are available, as you've heard before with a running back, right? And like we saw with the Browns last week, you might lose your first running back. You might lose your second running back. Your third running back is not going to noticeably be different, or it shouldn't be, if you have a half-assed decent running back. Same thing we saw, like, let's say with the Bears. They lost two guys already, and then they were down to Khalil Herbert, who was their third-string running back, and he looks amazing. You really get that a lot down the offense, up and down, other than maybe your offensive line, because you might have like some really drastic changes there. And the only other exception is if you have a team like the Chiefs where Tyreek Hill is your bread and butter and he's your only like above average receiver or really, really dependable receiver. When you lose him, obviously that does make a difference, but really on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to all come down to the quarterback. If your quarterback is good and he's going to play well and he's going to get you the win, he's going to get you the win. If you look at a team like the Packers, even if they lose Devontae Adams, the offense is going to maybe take a little bit of a step back, but really what's going to depend on, what the team is going to depend on, cannot talk today, is Aaron Rodgers. As long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy, they're going to feel comfortable going into most games. So, again, that's why we're bringing that up now. But let's go ahead and look it over. So, strength of schedule for the Browns, they have had the easiest strength of schedule. They've played a bunch of really weak offenses. They've had the 11th easiest defensive strength of schedule. So, they've played, for the most part, a lot of easier defenses. This week, they're going to be playing against the Steelers, who are the 20th ranked offense. Not a huge difference there. Still playing a bottom, 12, 13 teams on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, though, they are even playing the Steelers, who are the 9th ranked defense by DVOA. So it is going to be a little bit of a change there that they're going to have to contend with, especially because it does not look like Baker Mayfield is going to be back. They're going to be asking Case Keenum, a backup receiver with a lot of banged up weapons, to take on this Steelers defense, and that can be an issue. Now, they're probably going to try to run the ball a lot more with guys like Nick Chubb, assuming he's back. But even if they are effective with that, I don't see the Steelers giving up huge chunk gains the way the Chargers did. And so Nick Chubb might have a good day, but his good day is probably going to look more like 20 attempts for 110 yards, not 14 attempts for 150 yards. So that's going to be something that the Browns are going to have to contend with, and they're going to have to adjust to playing a better defense. On the other side of the ball, the Steelers have also got kind of lucky that they have played also a lot of really weak offenses. They're the 7th easiest schedule by offense. They're going to be playing the Browns, who are the 8th ranked offense by DVOA. That's going to be a little bit of a difference for their defense. Their defense is going to have to adjust to playing a better offense, to playing a team that can use guys like Nick Chubb, that has the ability to have chunk gains. Now, this would be more of a concern, in my opinion, if their team was entirely healthy and if Baker Mayfield was playing. The Steelers may have a little bit of a struggle with that. I don't think it's going to be as big of an issue this week, especially because the Browns are going to have to go back to the drawing board, and I don't see them making a whole bunch of adjustments off of what they did last week against the Broncos. While they are going to get some people back, assumedly, they're not going to get the entire team back, and without Baker, they're probably going to be running a very similar offense to the one they did with Denver last week. And if the Steelers just watched last week's film, they should be able to find something that they can work with. Also, the Steelers are coming off of a full bye week, while the Browns had a mini bye week and they played on a Thursday. So the Steelers are going to be a little bit healthier, a little bit more rested, and they were able to watch that film on a Thursday, so they had a few extra days to even break down that film as far as the coaching staff is concerned. So that defense should be able to hold up just fine, even though the offense is a little bit better. Secondly, though, they have the 4th easiest schedule by defensive strength of schedule. The Browns are the 13th ranked defense, meaning that the Steelers are used to playing a lot of easy defenses, and now they're going to play the 13th ranked defense in the NFL. 13th isn't necessarily like a total stay away, like, oh my gosh, these guys are going to shut us out. But it is a very respectable defense, somebody that you do have to go in there with a decent scheme. You can't just go in there thinking, hey, look, we're going to run Najee Harris over these guys all day, or we're going to have Claypool just be open for bombs. it's going to be a defensive struggle in this game. It is a divisional rivalry as well. Obviously, these teams know each other very well. They've been watching each other all year, I'm sure. Their coaching staffs, they know each other. Mike Tomlin's there. I'm not sure if anybody else has heard this, but Mike Tomlin is getting a lot of talk about leaving the Steelers and being the LSU coach for next year. I haven't dug into that too much myself, but I've heard it, and I'm not sure if that maybe is a little bit of a distraction in that locker room, but again, that's just total narrative street. At the end of the day, though, I think that this 17 to 20 score is probably pretty accurate. It's going to be about what the score ends up being. When we look at the teams that these guys have played, the Browns have played 3 pretty tough defenses. They played the Cardinals, who are the second-ranked defense by DVOA, the Vikings, who are the 6th-ranked defense, and the Bears, who are the 7th-ranked defense. Against the Cardinals and the Vikings, the Browns were only able to put up 14 points. Against the Bears, they were able to put up 26 points, but that was a Bears team that really just kept giving the ball to the Browns one way or another. The Browns had that ball for way longer than they should have in that game. The Bears' offense really helped the Browns in that sense of the gameplay. Steelers, on the other hand, they have played 2 tough defenses. They have played the Bills and they have played the Bengals. They lost against the Bengals. They won against the Bills, but they did beat the Bills because of a blocked, I think it was a field goal that they ran back for a touchdown. The most similar team as far as like defensive comp here is the Raiders, and they did play the Raiders, who are the 15th ranked defense. They put up 17 points in that game, and I think it's probably going to be pretty similar in this game. The Steelers maybe are a little bit better as far as coaching is concerned because their rookies are kind of coming on. Guys like Najee Harris are taking a little bit of a step forward. Also, though, they have some injuries, so that kind of offsets it. So either way, I think that's about a break-even point. So you're probably looking at about 17 to 20 points for the Steelers, and then about 17 to 14 points for the Browns. I do think that the Steelers probably eke this one out, but because it's such a defensive gameplay or game plan for both of these teams, it's really going to depend on who makes the mistake, who has the more interceptions. And I probably trust Ben to be just a little bit more careful with the ball. But either way, I'm not touching that side. I would much rather have the under. Again, it's under 42.5, and I'm projecting this game to be at about 37. Gives us a little bit of a wiggle room there. And realistically, if anything, I can see these deviations going downwards before they go upwards. Lastly, guys, the 4th pick for the week is actually going to be a tease. And this one is going to involve Washington +9 and the 49ers. Let me show you that real quick. So here's the Washington breakdown. Another game where it doesn't necessarily going to be all defense because neither of these defenses are any good, but the offenses are just so incompetent at this point that whoever can have just a decent enough day should be able to get this win. And both the Madden algorithm, the strength of schedule, my coaching algorithm, everything has Washington actually winning this game by about 2 to 2.5 points. And the line, I'm not really sure why it's 3. In some spots, I've even seen 3.5. And that's not for Washington. That's for the Broncos. The Broncos are 3 to 3.5 point favorites, and I just don't see it. Everything to me points Washington's direction. Even if you go again back to strength of schedule, Washington's had an easier strength of schedule by offense. They're playing the Broncos, who are not a good offense either. They've had about an average schedule by defensive stats. Broncos are a below average defense at this point. The Broncos, on the other hand, have had a really tough schedule. They've played a lot of really good offenses so far after their first 3 weeks, of course. And they're going to be playing Washington, who's like a middle average, below average offense at best. And then they've had a relatively easy schedule defensively, that is, for the Broncos. And they're going to be playing against a really terrible defense right now, with Washington being the second worst defense in the NFL. So both these teams should be able to do whatever they want to do, really, as far as offense is concerned. The problem is, I really think the Broncos, if they have their way, they want to play very conservatively. They want to let Teddy Bridgewater just manage the game. They want to just run the ball with Gordon and Williams and just play like this clock management kind of game. And I don't think Washington's going to let them do that. I think Heineke's going to be able to get loose. You're going to have guys like Gibson, who as long as he can play with his like half a leg or whatever the hell he's got with his broken leg over there, as long as he is capable of going, he's going to be able to do some damage in this game. And even if he sits out this game or he gets injured or whatever the case is, J.D. McKissic is a very capable back. He's a great pass catcher. Washington just has a little bit of an edge on the offensive side of the ball. Now, the Broncos do get Jerry Jeudy back this week, and I think you'll hear some talk about that. But keep in mind, Jerry Jeudy's coming off of a high ankle sprain, and while he's been cleared to practice and play and all that kind of stuff, I'm just telling you, as someone who has watched football for a long time, for fantasy, for gambling, all that kind of stuff, I do not trust guys coming back their first week off a high ankle sprain. I have heard several players say that high ankle sprain feels like your foot's dangling, like it's almost falling off of your damn leg. And so to ask this guy to come back and trust that foot and that ankle this quickly, I have got to believe he still has some damage or some injury, something in there that he's just not feeling 100% yet. So I'm not going to say he's 100%. And even if he feels like, hey, I'm okay and I'm good to practice, practicing and game time are totally different, and I don't think he's going to be as effective as he was prior to the injury, at least not right now. In a few weeks, he should be fine, but right now I think he's going to have a tough game, and I think Washington is going to probably let him do what he wants because he was not their deep threat in the first place. They're going to be more concerned with guys like Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, that can maybe do a little bit more damage down the field, and Jerry Jeudy's going to be like the underneath guy that, without his crazy burst and speed, is not that big of an issue as far as defense is concerned. So either way, in this one, I'm taking Washington, but I am teasing them because there is some variation in this game or some variance that I see coming up. So we're going to take Washington plus the 9. So we're getting the 3, obviously, the 7, and the 6. Again, keep in mind that 6 has become more of a key number this year. So we're getting all 3 of those numbers with this tease. And while I expect Washington to win this game, I do feel a lot more confident when we have the plus 9, especially when the win margin is within a field goal. You're just begging something to go wrong if you have that slight of a margin. So the tease in that case helps us out and gets us the key numbers. Lastly, the other part of this tease is the 49ers and the Bears. And this is an under in this one. I know a lot of people do not like teasing totals, and I get it. I think the biggest mathematical reason to not do it is because key numbers on totals are not as quote-unquote key as they are with sides. I understand that, but at the end of the day, again, there is a preference in numbers. There are still key numbers. They're called key numbers for a reason. They do come up slightly more than your regular numbers. And aside from that one, this is just handicapping. It has just pointed me to the under in this one since I turned on my computer this morning. The grading prediction, which is the coaching grade, has this one at really like 20 to 13. And let's just make that the key numbers, or like more likely numbers, of 21 to 14. That's the 35. So that's obviously under 45, right? But aside from that, we have the Madden algorithm that has the 49ers winning this game by about 6 to 7 points, which does line up with that prediction. And we also show the defensive strength of schedule here for both of these teams. The 49ers have had a pretty tough schedule. They've played a lot of tough defenses, and that's not going to end this week. The Bears they're the 7th ranked defense by DVOA, but the Bears are the 26th ranked offense by DVOA. And if you watched last week, you know that the Bears have just had a hell of a time on offense. Justin Fields just continues to cough up this ball. He is just not shown anything that he had from college in the pros yet. And it's not all his fault. I don't want to put it all on him. But he had some fumbles that were just like embarrassing almost. That offensive line is not giving him any time. This week, that offensive line is going to be having to deal with Nick Bosa. Now, they are lucky in that the 49ers lost their 2 starting defensive tackles, and they're probably not going to be back this week. But the defensive ends for the 49ers are still there. they're still going to win those matchups. And Justin Fields, while he has some legs, he is very prone to sitting in the pocket, and maybe he thinks he has an extra second or two, and he doesn't. And when he goes back to wind up, that defensive end is right there, and they're stripping the ball, or they're sacking him, or they're making him run and throw an off-balance pass, or just throw the interception. So if you watch the game last week, Justin Fields fumbled twice. One of them they did recover, and he threw an interception, and that was just like in the first half. The Bears just got dominated. I mean, again, it was the Buccaneers, so it's kind of expected, but the Buccaneers front line is just slightly better than the 49ers, especially when they're both healthy. I do think the 49ers are going to get after Justin Fields in this game, and hopefully somebody coaches him up a little bit so that he's not taking so many sacks and he's not getting hit so much and he's not fumbling the damn ball. But that's a lot to ask for in a week. Now, it did come out that Matt Nagy is probably going to miss this week because of COVID, so maybe the backup coaching staff has a little bit of a different plan, a different take, and they use him a little bit differently. But I don't foresee this team putting up more than 14 points. On the 49ers side of the ball, Garoppolo is Garoppolo, right? He wants to play it very, very short, very low ADOT. He wants to just kind of manage the game. Now, they did put up 18 points last week, which is around what I have them predicted for this week. The Colts are not as good of a defense as the Bears are. Secondly, that game was also in the rain, so they didn't really adjust to the rain like you think they would have. They just kind of kept doing what they were going to do and didn't give a shit that like everything was soaked and it was windy for portions of that game, which kind of makes me question Kyle Shanahan and his status of this like good coach. Like, was he maybe using some coordinators? Was there something going on there where he's not as good as we thought he was? But either way, I think this 19-point prediction, like 19 to 20 points, is about where they're going to be. If nothing else, they're probably going to be lower than this because they're going to have to account for the better defense that the Bears are bringing to the table. Now, that all being said, even if this were to end up being 21-14, like I said, we're still 10 points under the total, which gives us a touchdown and a field goal to play with. So we have more than enough wiggle room here. The 39 that's out there right now, it actually started off at 41 and it ticked down to 40, and I was still doing some calculations. I was still working through this game, and then by the time I was done with everything, it had ticked down to 39. So there is already massive money coming in on this under. So if you want to grab this, I would try to grab it as soon as possible. I don't see a lot of people running to the table to bet the under 39, but whenever the general public comes in, whenever more sharp money comes in, I'm just now finishing my calculations, so I'm sure other people are too. This number's probably going to continue to tick down a little bit at a time, maybe bottom out like around 38 or so. But again, grab this number as soon as you can. And the tease is going to be, again, Washington +9, and then the 49ers and the Bears under 45 as the fourth pick of the week. This is probably going to be it, guys. Like I said, the only other pick that there is for the week that I am really focusing on right now is that Rams first quarter, and I really love that play as well. I think the Rams are going to just dominate like they should have this week, and we're going to be able to get that money back. Not that we're chasing, but it sets up really well for them and for us. So hopefully you guys had a good last week. Hopefully you've learned something in this video, and you'll follow me with some of these picks. But thank you again for putting up and listening to me for like 45 minutes at this point. Have a great day. Have a great week. Good luck with your picks, and beat those books.